Hey guys, DC Network here, coming at you with another video. I've said countless times on this channel before that Ben 10 is Cartoon Network's biggest franchise. It's their cash cow. It's made them the most money of any series that they've ever premiered. And I've wanted to talk today about the rise and fall of Ben 10, because as we all know, we're kind of in a period of unknown when it comes to Ben 10. We don't know what's coming next, and obviously the show's not at its peak like it once was back in the late 2000s and early 2010s. So welcome to the rise and fall of Ben 10. The year is 2005 and Christmas is fast approaching, and Cartoon Network keeps airing these TV spots for this new series titled Ben 10 that's going to be premiering on December 27th of 2005. A little odd that a new series would premiere 2 days after Christmas and they wouldn't just hold it off till 2006, the new year, but nevertheless the series was premiering at the end of the year in 2005. I remember at the time, being the young DC Network that I was actually afraid of aliens. I never watched Star Wars because I didn't want to see aliens in a movie. I didn't watch Ben 10 when it first came out because I didn't want to see these aliens that were going to be on screen. I was afraid of them. So I remember one day I was waiting for my friend to come over. I was playing with my Hess toy trucks, those holiday toy trucks that come out every single year. My friend came over and he brought some cool action figures with him, and I asked him, I'm like, hey man, what are these action figures from? These look cool. Like, there was this alien that was a bug. It was called Stinkfly, and he was telling me, hey, it's from Ben 10. You should check it out. It's really good. And after that day, I was hooked onto Ben 10. And the reason why I bring up that story is because I feel like a lot of the success that came with the original Ben 10 was not only because the show itself was phenomenal, because it was, but it had to do with the toy line as well. The toy line is the reason why it's the highest grossing franchise that Cartoon Network has ever created, because it sold so much merchandise throughout the run of the original series. And the toy line is going to come into play a lot throughout the history of Ben 10. For better or for worse, it kind of dictates where the franchise goes in later iterations of the show, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But nevertheless, the original Ben 10 was doing phenomenal. It had a run of 4 seasons all the way from 2005 to April 15th of 2008, and we're in March of April of 2008. Ben 10, like I said, it's doing phenomenally. And I remember at the time, there was a bit of discussion over a new Ben 10 series that would be coming that year. And the Ben 10 series that was coming was called Ben 10 Alien Force. And I remember talking to friends at school and talking to kids on the playground, and people weren't really looking forward to this new Ben 10. They were saying Ben 10 had run its course. I think this is the point of the franchise history where we started to see some people leave the franchise of Ben 10, at least in the later seasons of Alien Force. Nevertheless, the series premiered on April 18th of 2008, and I remember all of the people who had told me that Ben 10 had run its course, all of the kids on the playground who were saying they're not going to watch it, they were all in love with the series. But one thing that I noticed happened during Alien Force is the toy line sales started to decline. Now, why is that? Well, the reason why is because as Alien Force went on, it had a total of 3 seasons from 2008 till 2010. When it ended, those kids who grew up on the original were starting to grow out of Ben 10. They were starting to grow out of cartoons and move on to other things. I remember witnessing it firsthand with my friends. Hey, I'll admit it, I had a period in Alien Force where I grew out of Ben 10. I believe it was after the 2nd season. I was like, yeah, I'm too old for Ben 10. I need to stop watching this stuff. And I stopped watching it. And I think the same thing was happening with a lot of kids. I remember for me, I was still buying Ben 10 toys, right? I remember even I was going on vacation and I went on eBay and I found they had Chroma Stone early, and I was so excited. And I remember going to Toys R Us and buying like Goop and Spider Monkey, all these figures. I was really the only one doing that out of my friend group. I noticed around this time all my friends were starting to exit Ben 10, as I said before. So anyways, Ben 10 Alien Force concluded on March 26th of the year 2010, and almost exactly a month later there was a new Ben 10 series coming on the air titled Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, premiering on April 23rd of 2010. And this was a bit of my Ben 10 dark ages, if you will. I really didn't watch Ben 10 Ultimate Alien until the 3rd and final season was on the air in 2011/2012. I got all caught up on Ben 10 Ultimate Alien for its conclusion on March 31st of the year 2012. But as I said before, I was really the only person I knew at this time watching Ben 10 anymore. Everybody else departed the series and moved on to other things. And one thing I had forgotten to mention as well is Ben 10 also had a plethora of movies between the original series launch and the end of Ultimate Alien. You had Secret of the Omnitrix air in 2007 being a big part of the original Ben 10 series. Then Then you had Ben 10 Race Against Time, also in 2007, being the first live-action entry in the Ben 10 world, with a follow-up live-action movie titled Ben 10 Alien Swarm premiering in 2009, and the last Ben 10 movie, at least for the time being, was during the hiatus between Ultimate Alien and Omniverse. They announced, being Cartoon Network, that Ben 10 Destroy All Aliens would be premiering on the channel. And I remember at the time being a little bit confused on this film. I enjoyed it thoroughly, but it was a bit strange to me that we were going to go back to Ben 10 being 10 years old, when during Ultimate Alien and during Omniverse he's supposed to be 16, so what was the point of them returning to 10-year-old Ben? And I think this was a little indication as to the thought process behind the scenes and also where the franchise would be going in the future. So around this time, a lot of people were discussing Ben 10 Ultimate Alien's art style as opposed to Ben 10 Omniverse, and how they were trying to dumb it down and make it more for kids. And yes, Ben 10 Omniverse does have a more cartoony art style, if you will. I think that art style looks great. I think it suits this show well, and I liked it. But at the same time, the whole reason this was happening was because Ben 10's toy sales were declining heavily. I remember, like I said, during the days of Alien Force, I was one of my only friends left that was buying Ben 10 toys. During the days of Ultimate Alien, I did start to buy Ben 10 toys again, but no one else I knew was buying Ben 10 toys, let alone even watching the show. So Ben 10 Omniverse was Cartoon Network's attempt to get back in with the younger audience who does buy action figures and gets their parents to buy them, and that was the whole point of the change in art style and the more cartoony aesthetic behind Omniverse, as well as the return of Ben as an 11-year-old in some aspects of the show. Nevertheless, Ben 10 Omniverse premiered on August 1st of 2012, and it went on for a total of 8 seasons, each consisting of 10 episodes, ending on November 14th of 2014. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention the way that Cartoon Network got rid of Ben 10 during this time, or the way that they aired the end of Omniverse. After Galactic Monsters, the 5th season aired from February 15th to April 19th of 2014, there was no mention of Ben 10 on the channel for quite some time. And I remember at the time wondering, where is the 6th season of Ben 10 Omniverse? What is going on here? Well, on October 6th of 2014, all the way till November 14th of 2014, Cartoon Network decided they were going to air out the rest of Ben 10, with each day having an episode air at 6 a.m. so they could use it as a tax write-off essentially. And the whole reason why this was happening was, once again, the toys were not selling for Ben 10. I used to keep up with all the rumors for Ben 10 toys. I used to look at everything that was happening at the toy fairs, and I remember, I believe it was New York Toy Fair in 2014, they had all of these toys showcasing the Galactic Monsters characters, like a new Ghost Freak, a new Frankenstrike, all these other Ben 10 aliens, and they never hit toy shelves. And I remember wondering, what happened? Why are these toys not coming out? Well, the reason why is because the toys just weren't selling anymore, and so they basically pulled the plug on the toy line well into the run of Omniverse, which is when Cartoon Network decided that something drastic needed to happen for Ben 10. They needed to get it back in the eyes of kids again, who were the market who were buying action figures. A quick side note for those collectors out there, these toys that never came out in America, they actually did come out overseas, and they're worth quite a lot of money actually in some cases. Like, for example, there's a Bullfrag figure that never actually made its way to store shelves that is going for, at least as of a few years ago, over $100. I managed to get my hands on one from someone in China, but nevertheless, it's just a little interesting piece of Ben 10 history that I don't think many people know about. But nevertheless, back to the point of this video, Ben 10 Omniverse ended unceremoniously in November of 2014, and really we didn't know what would be happening with Ben 10. There were rumors at the time that we would be either getting a Ben 10,000 series or a Ben 10 reboot. And I remember thinking to myself, it doesn't really make sense for them to do a reboot to Ben 10, because why would they reboot the show when it's doing rather well and we have a story that we're actually following in the Ben 10 universe? It's a story that's been developing throughout 4 seasons. Why would they, or rather 4 series, why would they then reboot the thing? All of a sudden in 2015, it was announced that Ben 10 would be getting a brand new reboot. And I remember the day I saw the promotional image for the reboot, they showed Ben and I was like, why does he look like he's 5 years old? I was like, alright, I don't love the art style, I don't love necessarily the direction they're taking the franchise in, but I'll give it a go, I'll see how it is. And it premiered overseas on October October 1st of the year 2016. Went on for 5 seasons, ending on April 11th of 2021, with a movie in between there titled Ben 10 vs. the Universe, the movie, and the whole point of the reboot was once again to get kids to buy toys. I remember when it first came out, the toy line was doing relatively well. I remember, I collected them myself as well, just because the toy line, in all honesty, from the reboot versus the original series, the toy line for the reboot is of much higher quality than the Bandai toys we had during the run of the original series all the way till Omniverse. But nevertheless, the toy line was doing well in the beginning. I remember them releasing a lot of new characters, some characters that we even never got in the original Ben 10, such as Dr. Animo and other villains, and then all of a sudden we hit around season 3 of the reboot, and I started to notice something happening with it, and that was that the toy line was kind of slowing down. They weren't releasing that many new characters anymore. They were just releasing new color variants of older characters, like a translucent forearms or a translucent heat blast. I started to notice too, following the toy fairs that were going on every year, that these new characters, these new toys were being shown off at toy fairs. Like, for example, Crab was going to get a toy. They had a toy of this, like, I think it's the High Power or something. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's the big villain of season 3. I didn't watch it, so I don't know the character's name, but they had an action figure of that character, and it never got released as well. And I started to notice that a lot of the toys were not getting released again. Same thing that happened during the run of Ben 10 Omniverse, and that was the first indication to me that something was going wrong with the Ben 10 reboot, and it wasn't doing as well as Cartoon Network expected it to do, or as well as it did during the first and second season. Well, nevertheless, we go on a little bit more. Season 4 doesn't really get any toys. The movie didn't get any toys. Season 5 gets no toys, and all of a sudden the reboot concludes on April 11th of 2021, and we're pretty much at the present day with Ben 10 now, because ever since then, there's been no mention really from Cartoon Network about Ben 10. The only mention of Ben 10 from anyone related to Cartoon Network is Duncan Rolu, one of the creators of the series, part of Man of Action. He mentioned that a new Ben 10 was in the works and it was going to be announced by December of 2021. That never happened. He discussed it a little bit more throughout the early parts of 2022, saying he misspoke and he apologizes for any confusion he caused, and he hasn't really touched on Ben 10, at least the next Ben 10, since around the midpoint of the year 2022. Earlier this year, we had Jason DeMarco, the head of the anime and action department over at Cartoon Network, say that there are multiple different ideas that are in the early stages of development with Ben 10, but nevertheless, that tweet was then deleted and we never got any more details on what exactly is in development, and we're kind of in the same situation that we were back in 2014, 2015 with Ben 10, but a little bit worse this time, as it's been 2 years plus already since the reboot ended. So to wrap things up today, how did Ben 10 go from the peaks of the original series in Alien Force to the plummet that was the Ben 10 reboot? Essentially what it is Cartoon Network's reliance on toy sales, reliance on action figures. Throughout Ben 10's run, unfortunately, action figures have kind of been synonymous with the series, and it even made Cartoon Network cancel other shows in that era, such as Symbiotic Titan, due to the fact that they viewed all these action shows as an opportunity for them to make money on toy sales. And while I do understand that toy sales are a big part of Ben 10's anatomy, it's a big part of what the show was, as a kid, yeah, did I enjoy buying Ben 10 toys? Yeah, I enjoy going to Toys R Us, seeing what Ben 10 toy I could find today. I remember having a hard time getting gray matter. I remember the day I found Upchuck. Upchuck wasn't even in the show yet, and there was this new alien on store shelves called Upchuck. I bought him, came home, told my friend, hey, I just got this toy of this alien named Upchuck. He's not even in the show yet. Like, when do you think he's going to premiere? That was fun. That was cool. The problem, Cartoon Network, is times have changed. I discussed this in a recent video, but kids aren't really that into toys anymore as they used to be. Kids are more so into technology today. They rather have an iPad as opposed to getting a cool action figure from Ben 10. So what I hope, at least for the next iteration of Ben 10, is that this synergy that there seems to be with the Ben 10 franchise and a toy line or merchandising, I hope that ends. I hope that synergy ends, because it's not healthy for the brand, it's not healthy for the fans, it's really not healthy for anybody, because what you end up doing is kind of hindering what's possible with the franchise, because you're always trying to sell toys to kids. I get it. I get you want to make the most money that you can, but I think that there are other ways and better ways you can do so. If you want to reach kids more today, make some mobile apps, make some games for them to play in the world of Ben 10, and make a more serious series for older audiences like you have with Unicorn Wars Eternal and My Adventures with Superman as of late, and Adventure Time Fiona and Cake. Have it air on Adult Swim. have it be targeting older audiences while also having some aspects that kids can enjoy as well. I'm not saying to completely forget about kids in this, but nevertheless, we have to wait and see what's happening next with the Ben 10 franchise. But essentially, the rise and fall of Ben 10 is corporate executives wanting to get as much money as they can out of the franchise due to toy sales. And yeah, it's kind of sad, but it's the reality of Ben 10. Anyways, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about all this. Do you guys have similar experiences when it comes to Ben 10 that I did throughout the lifetime of its show? Let me know your story. Let me know if you have some different opinions on the rise and fall of Ben 10. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from DC Network. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.